Welcome! My name is Betsy Perna, and I'm a volunteer for Larimer County Naturalists. And I'm happy to be here today talking about rocks. Today we're going to talk about rocks falling apart. Can you believe it? How do rocks fall apart? But first I want you to take a look at something. I want to teach you a word here if you don't know it yet. Landscape. Let's look at the landscape here. Hopefully you can still hear me. Can rocks change? Can landscapes change? How might that happen? That's what we're going to be delving into in just a couple of moments. Here's a little rock. Where do you think this rock came from? How about this? That little rock could very well have come from something this big. How does this happen? Well, today we're talking about how rocks fall apart, and we're going to talk about the process right now. There are three little processes that are involved in this action: weathering, erosion, and deposition. And you're going to have to put your thinking caps and imagine caps on right now, because you've got to imagine the top of a mountain here, and then a lake down here. And you know that on tops of mountains it gets pretty cold in the winter. And freezing is part of a weathering process. Weathering is simply wind, rain, and freezing, breaking up rock. The next thing that happens is the rock's got to move. And that's called erosion. And rocks move at different rates depending on how large they are. That big rock that I brought out, that's going to move a little slower, even in the rain, than that smaller rock. And when they finally land, they really never finally land because nature's always moving things around. It's called deposition. Deposits, coming down, placing down. So remember, we've been talking about landscapes and how does a landscape change, and our key words: weathering, erosion, and deposition. Well, have you ever heard of the word landscape in another way, like maybe with mom or dad out in the backyard and maybe some little rocks about this size, maybe a reddish color, some flagstone? Well, I'll bet you that if you helped move those around, you're a landscaper. You're also involved in helping with erosion, right? Moving things around. Here's some dirt that's kind of reddish color. Well, I'll bet this dirt might have come from a rock like that. How about this? A little bit larger size. And these are black. And they're quite heavy. It's a different rock altogether than this red one. Well, here's a clump of dirt that may have come from some rock just like that. And why is it clumped up, you say? Well, it could have some clay in it, because when you add water to some certain kinds of dirt that contain clay, they stick together. So, weathering cracks the rocks up. Erosion moves the rocks around and helps break them down even more so that they might become dirt. Actually, ultimately, it does become dirt. And think about now in your backyard, some of the different colors of the dirt. If you have dirt in your backyard, and I hope you do, and I hope you play in it a lot. What color is that dirt? Where might that have come from? What kind of rock? And we'll leave it with that. Well, I'm really glad to have been with you today, and I've got a little quiz question. It's optional. But first, I just want to remind you of our 3 keywords today, which would be weathering, erosion, and deposition, all in that order. Or kind of mixed together. I think we discovered that today, how things all work together. And here's a picture that I would like to ask you which process of those 3 is involved here. So noting we've got trees here. Looks like it just rained. And we've got some water coming down here. A lot of mud. What process is that? Give you a few minutes here, a couple of seconds to think about that. Well, guess what? It was a trick question. It's all 3. We've got weathering, we've got the rain coming down, we've got erosion. Water is moving it, and look at the dramatic erosion here. That could have fallen with gravity's help just because it was so wet. And then if you notice right up here, we've got a little teeny island starting there. So a landform is actually starting, and what would that be? Starts with a D, deposition. All this dirt and silt is getting deposited there, and it's starting to build up. So, I ask you, can the landscape change? How does the landscape change? What's the process? 3 little processes involved. And I'll leave you with that today.